To the untrained eye, my life seemed to embody the qualities that many women would find admirable. An appealing property situated in a tranquil, tree-lined neighborhood. A dedicated partner, excelling in his career. Our Labrador Min was a loyal companion, consistently present by my side. However, beneath the surface, a subtle emptiness had established itself, one I was hesitant to confront. Tom and I experienced 6 years of marriage, and initially everything appeared to be quite straightforward. Discussions that extended into the early hours. Crafting narratives until dawn breaks. Unplanned weekend excursions for the pure enjoyment of the experience. Messages concealed within lunch bags. Small gestures that brought affection to fruition. However, over time those gestures steadily decreased. His business trips became more frequent. His focus shifted away from us, captivated by something that was beyond my grasp. I reminded myself that it is simply a facet of existence. Every union inevitably loses its initial brilliance over time. However, everyday life should not elicit such feelings of solitude. Min served as my sanctuary. He followed me from one room to another. His attentive brown eyes remained vigilant and consistently observant. In Tom's absence, it was Min who greeted me each morning and settled beside me at night. He was attuned to my emotions, drawing near when I felt low, and expressing joy with his wagging tail whenever I displayed resilience. In a distinctive manner, he filled the void that Tom had left behind. On a brisk autumn morning, Tom was engaged in preparations for yet another journey. He moved with intention, the suitcase positioned open on the bed, containing neatly folded shirts organized inside. He stated it would be 2 weeks this time, his attention directed elsewhere. I leaned against the doorframe, my arms crossed over my chest. That appears to be more extensive than what we usually observe. He nodded, fastening the buttons of his shirt with careful precision. This agreement is of considerable significance. I will ensure to repay you upon my return. We both recognized that he would not. Min emitted a subtle whine from the corner, fully cognizant of the escalating tension. I lowered myself to gently stroke behind his ears, experiencing a sense of comfort in this familiar action. Will you be okay? Tom made an inquiry, finally directing his gaze towards me. His expression conveyed a subtle concern, while his mind had already wandered elsewhere. I presented him with a concise, composed smile. Min will be present to accompany me. He emitted a gentle chuckle, shaking his head in a display of amusement. At times it seems that your affection for that dog exceeds the feelings you have for me. I found amusement, yet the laughter did not reach my eyes. It may be attributed to his authentic capacity for attentive listening. The words hung in the atmosphere, heavier than I had intended. Tom closed his suitcase with a heavy sigh, the zipper gliding shut, reflecting the finality of his thoughts. I will contact you at my earliest convenience. I accompanied him to the door, noting his actions as he placed his bag into the car. He gently pressed his lips against my cheek for a brief moment. It was routine, not enthusiasm, that drove me onward. I remained in that location well beyond his departure, the refreshing morning air gently caressing my skin. Min gently nudged my leg, bringing me back from my thoughts. I looked down at him, managing to form a smile. Once again, it is just the two of us, my colleague. As I closed the door, a distinct sense of relief enveloped me. The house was surrounded by a tranquility that, for the first time in a long while, felt invigorating rather than stifling. It seemed to embody a realm of possibilities. The initial days following Tom's departure progressed as anticipated. The day commenced with a warm cup of coffee on the back porch, while I observed Min as he energetically chased after the leaves swirling in the yard. Afternoons progressed through well-known responsibilities. Meals enjoyed in tranquility. I assured myself that I appreciated the solitude to which I had adjusted in this existence. During those quiet moments when the home was still and the only sound was Min's steady breathing, a sense of solitude surrounded me. It was on the 4th evening of our regular walk that everything changed. The sun descended gracefully toward the horizon, illuminating the neighborhood with a warm amber hue. Min proceeded ahead. The leash loosened in my grip as I unexpectedly heard someone call my name. "Is that you, Charky?" I turned, my heart momentarily uneasy at the sight of the figure positioned a short distance away. Ethan. It had been several years since I last saw him. It has been quite some time since our college days. He seemed to have undergone a transformation, exhibiting greater definition and a more mature appearance. There was an unmistakable sense of familiarity in his presence, the well-known relaxed posture, the lively glimmer in his hazel eyes. For a moment, I experienced a lack of words. Subsequently, I achieved success. "Ethan, what is the purpose of your visit?" His smile widened. "I currently reside here, having returned a few months ago." An unusual combination of emotions emerged. A reflective yearning, a curious insight, an indescribable sensation that remains elusive. Min, perceptive of my hesitation, moved forward, investigating Ethan's genes before presenting a contented wag of his tail. Ethan chuckled lightly, his fingers instinctively reaching to scratch behind his ears. "I acknowledge your point." I found myself smiling, shaking my head in disbelief with a light chuckle. "It is indeed Min. He exercises caution regarding trust." Ethan made direct eye contact with me. "You did not either." The statements lingered in the atmosphere, laden with meaning. I paused, carefully considering the appropriate words to express. We coordinated seamlessly, our conversation progressing smoothly. Reflecting on past experiences, I recall the late-night study sessions, the engaging discussions fueled by coffee, and the consistent joy he brought into my life. I frequently contemplate the potential outcomes that may have arisen between us had the circumstances been altered. Tom presented himself with confidence and certainty, leading me to make my decision in his favor. Upon arriving at my residence, Ethan hesitated, a hint of uncertainty evident in his expression. "It has been a pleasure to meet with you, Charky." "Certainly." I spoke my words without careful consideration. "I would like to extend an invitation for you to join me for a cup of coffee." He regarded me with keen attention, as if weighing the proposal carefully. He offered a smile then. "I would be grateful for that." Inside, the residence radiated a welcoming warmth, filled with energy. I moved through the kitchen, the routine of brewing coffee grounding me in the present. Ethan leaned against the counter, watching me with a slight, knowing smile in his eyes. "Do you continue to incorporate a significant quantity of sugar?" A subtle smile emerged on my face. Individuals continued to face evaluation for it. We exchanged a laugh, the sound emanating effortlessly and organically. The realization took a full hour to manifest. The conversation progressed, skillfully exploring the intersections of historical context and contemporary relevance. As Ethan finally stood to leave, an unwilling silence settled in the space between us. "Would it be possible for us to revisit this matter once again?" he asked, his tone composed. I should have declined, I acknowledged with a nod. As the door closed, I exhaled, placing my hand on Min's soft, warm fur. A transformation had taken place, and I discovered a sense of ambiguity regarding the wish to impede it. The subsequent days blended into a consistent pattern. I was reluctant to examine too closely. Ethan and I developed justifications for our meeting, an evening walk, a cheerful exchange, a dialogue that unfolded on my front porch. It appeared innocuous, or at least that was the rationale I adopted. However, I remained cognizant of the underlying realities. The instant my pulse quickened upon seeing his name displayed on my phone screen. I consistently take a moment to observe my reflection prior to embarking on our walks. Min regarded me with a discerning eye, as though he sensed the nuanced transformations occurring in my life. Subsequently, the storm made its presence known. The evening sky transitioned into deeper shades, accompanied by the distant rumble of thunder, as Min and I stepped onto the porch. The environment was filled with the aroma of approaching rain, laden with the expectation of a significant downpour. Just as I was preparing to enter, the headlights cast a glow over my driveway, revealing Ethan's vehicle. He ascended the steps with purpose, a subtle smile gracing his features as droplets adorned his jacket. He stated, breathless, that he had been caught out in it. "I believe it would be prudent to remain here for a while, if that is acceptable to you." Take a brief pause. "Please enter." The interior of the house was enveloped in low light, with shadows stretching as the storm gathered outside. I moved to the kitchen, placing my hands firmly on the counter. "Would you care for some tea? Wine?" He displayed a cunning smile. "I would be pleased to accept any wine you may wish to share." I filled 2 glasses and handed one to him just as a bolt of lightning struck, illuminating the room with a brilliant white light. We remained in quietude, the tempest's intensity rattling the windows surrounding us. Then Ethan spoke, his voice more subdued than it had been. "It appears that you may be experiencing some dissatisfaction, correct?" I exhaled sharply, caught off guard. "Ethan." He set his glass down on the table. "There is no requirement to articulate it. Recognize it." I redirected my attention, tightening my hold on the glass. The reality remained between us, substantial and unavoidable. I could have wrapped it up then, dismissed it with a laugh, changed the subject, and sent him back into the fray. However, I permitted the silence to persist. He approached, his warmth bridging the distance that lay between us. "Charky. Just my name. That is all." I turned to address him directly. In that moment, a sense of clarity enveloped me. This decision was beyond my capacity to amend. His hand lifted, hesitating momentarily, providing me the opportunity to interject. I did not do that. As his fingers brushed against my cheek, I felt compelled to lean into the sensation. The glass in my hand felt heavy, slipping from my grasp and shattering softly upon contact with the floor. Neither of us took any action to recover it. The storm outside exhibited its intensity, with rain striking persistently against the windows. A deep silence filled the area. At that moment our lips connected. The measurement was conducted, the atmosphere was tranquil. The event progressed at a deliberate pace, with each moment thoughtfully evaluated. A kiss that unraveled years of self-discipline. Min shifted in the corner, displaying signs of restlessness. A subtle sound laced with disapproval. Reality emerged distinctly from the haze. I withdrew, breathing heavily, my heart racing uncontrollably. Ethan observed my expression, awaiting a cue for endorsement. I redirected my attention. "It would be advisable for you to depart." He tightened his jaw but ultimately responded with a nod of agreement. Acknowledged. As the door closed, I placed a hand over my heart, aware of its irregular rhythm. Although the storm outside had calmed, a fresh conflict was emerging internally. The next morning, the house exuded a changed ambience, as though a valued sanctity had been disrupted. The environment was thick, filled with unspoken truths. I went through the daily routine, but everything felt distant, as if I were watching myself from an external perspective. Min followed closely, exhibiting a quiet resolve, as his usual enthusiasm shifted to a more analytical approach. He was cognizant. That evening Tom reappeared. His arrival altered the ambience, filling the space with the scent of his cologne, the gentle sound of his suitcase, and the casual kiss on my cheek that implied continuity. However, I had undergone a transformation. "Is everything all right with you all?" he asked, studying me closely as he set his bag down on the ground. I was able to maintain a smile, despite feeling quite fatigued. He acknowledged with a nod, his focus shifting as he looked at his phone. Another work email serves as a reminder of the growing distance that appears to affect our connection. Relief should have enveloped me, yet guilt gnawed at my composure, undermining my tranquility. Min neglected to extend the customary greeting to Tom. He maintained a rigid posture in the corner, ears flattened, his gaze shifting between us. The weight of his unexpressed evaluation hung over me. During dinner, Tom shared his experiences, the conversations, the agreements, and the long hours invested. I acknowledged the conversation at the right moments, but my mind drifted, reflecting on the intensity of Ethan's touch, the instant I chose to cross a line that was now unchangeable. That evening, I found myself alert, observing the ceiling while Tom rested beside me, his breathing calm and uninterrupted. The distinction was notable. His absence extended for 2 weeks, yet it appeared to have no impact. In a single night, in a brief moment, Ethan revealed a thread within me that I had not recognized was unraveling. The subsequent afternoon, Ethan dispatched a text message. "Ethan, could we discuss something?" I focused intently on the screen, my heart quickening with anticipation. I hold the view that this may not be the most advisable course of action. "Ethan, is that everything there is? Will you genuinely pretend that it did not happen?" A moment of uncertainty arose. Was that not the only option presented to me? Tom noted my diminished concentration. "Is everything in order?" I acknowledged with a swift nod. Certainly, a friend is simply making contact. It was not an untruth. That was not the actual situation either. I looked at Tom then, carefully observing him, the person with whom I had established a mutual life, the individual I had once held in high regard. Did I betray him? Or had we grown distant long before Ethan re-entered my life? That evening, as I relaxed on the porch, Min settled beside me, his head softly resting on my knee. I ran my fingers through his fur, my heart filled with uncertainty. I could disclose my truth, communicate everything to Tom, and let the consequences arise as they may. Alternatively, I could choose to keep this secret, permitting it to infiltrate the vulnerabilities of our marriage. Another unaddressed division. Min exhaled softly, his breath lightly touching my skin, a subtle reminder that some actions are permanent. In the designated area, Tom called upon me by name. I closed my eyes, inhaled deeply, and stood up. Chep boi turbazarad ai. Tu kien non cap kong ko gyoihan now de zoathong bao nai.